With the Indian team, we are in Sydney too. Behind me is the famous Harbour Bridge that's right there. And then this is the Opera House that is lit in all its glory here at night. Also joining me live from Perth, sunny Gavaskar. He'll be getting here in Sydney a little later. For the moment, doing commentary duties in Perth. But Sunny bhai, we're now at a new venue. What do you think changes in terms of cricket being played from Melbourne to Sydney? What is it that the Indian team would have to do differently when they change venues from Melbourne to Sydney?
Well, I think the Sydney pitch generally helps the spinners a little bit, though in a 40 overs contest that might not be the case. So India will have to look at which spinners they play, or whether they play two spinners or one spinner. That's going to be the key. But as far as India is concerned, the confidence level is going to be massive. It's going to be very high. But there should be no complacency. That just because you pulled off a final ball victory, an epic victory, doesn't mean that you've got to take the next opponent lightly.
Okay, that is something that India would have to look at. The next opponents for India are going to be the Netherlands. They played well in round one to have qualified for the next round and now will be up against a very formidable Indian team. But just let me tell you, they may have arrived in Sydney just very recently, the men in blue, and after a very big win. But that didn't prompt the Indian team to put their feet up. They weren't relaxing. They were out in almost full strength for a training session that took place at the Sydney Cricket Ground. We were there covering all of that, and this is what the Indian team focused on their first practice session in the second leg of the T20 World Cup here in Sydney. So the Indian team was practicing today. Let me just fill you in on what they did. The entire team was out in full strength, barring a few players. Some notable absentees today were Mohammad Shami, Arshdeep Singh, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Your three fast bowlers did not come for practice. Then Hardik Pandya did not turn up for practice, and nor did Akshar Patel or Surya Kumar Yadav. KL Rahul practiced for an extended period of time at the nets here at the SCG. Alongside him was Rohit Sharma, and what was really notable in Rohit Sharma's practice today, he spent the maximum amount of time in the nets. So first he practiced when the openers came out to bat, the first one out on the nets, practiced for the longest time, and then he took a bit of a break, did some fielding drills. And then usually once you've done your batting session, you rarely see batsmen come back. But Rohit came back for a second stint. So he had two stints today at practice. Apart from that, you also had Dinesh Karthik practicing a lot. And what was really interesting to note is the fact that he practiced against the spinners. Remember, last time around, he came at a situation where the spinners were bowling. He spent time in the three different nets that you had, three different strips. And at all those three different strips, he was practicing against spin bowling. We know Dinesh Karthik has been very good against fast bowlers. He's often done that. But I think spinners could have been his Achilles heels. That's why probably the focus today was on DK practicing against spin bowlers. That is what he did today. Virat Kohli, another one. I think out of all the batsmen that were batting today, in the way that they were timing the ball, I think Virat looked the best. Clearly carrying on the form that he showed on the ground in Melbourne versus Pakistan. He carried on that form and was looking like the best player on display here. The next practice session, which is the day before the game, India is not going to have a practice session. So India is not practicing. That is why you saw most of the batters come out and play. And I think the fast bowlers needed rest. Hardik Pandya also, as you know, needs rest. And I doubt Hardik Pandya will make the playing 11 for Netherlands. We've seen it in the past. We saw it in the Asia Cup that he was given some sort of rest. I think something similar might happen here in this game too. Hardik might opt to sit out in this game. It's a ground, it's one of those rare grounds in Australia where the pitch conditions help spin bowlers, so maybe they'll come into play. But the difference from Melbourne is that Melbourne has massive boundaries. Sydney is also big, but not as big as the MCG. So all in all, it seems to be a ground that will suit the Indian team. India anyway going as the favourites versus Netherlands. They practiced really hard today. So that's the latest update that we've got for you from Sydney. Right now it's bright and sunny. It's in the afternoon right now, around 2 o'clock when I'm reporting, but they're expecting some sort of rain later in the day. Hopefully by the time the 27th comes along, when India and Netherlands are going to be playing, by that time we are hoping that the weather completely clears up. Right, so that's what the Indian team did on their first practice session at the Sydney Cricket Ground. As expected, the fast bowlers were resting. You, of course, had the net bowlers out in full number. Saiva, we understand, the three fast bowlers that played the previous game in Arshdeep Singh, Mohammad Shami, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, they did not come out to practice, nor did Surya Kumar Yadav and Akshar Patel. But the other man that I'm going to talk to you about is Hardik Pandya. Do you reckon that he didn't come out for practice today? Do you reckon that this would be a good game to rest Hardik Pandya? We saw it in the last game. Towards the end of that game, he was having some sort of difficulty between running between the wickets. And then we've often seen, we saw it in the Asia Cup as well, that he was rested when India were playing a slightly weaker opposition. So that makes a perfect case. And most likely, we may not see Hardik play the next encounter.
Well, if he's got a bit of a niggle, it makes sense to rest him because the game on Sunday against South Africa is going to be a big game too. So yes, I think anybody who's got a bit of a niggle, you want to keep them a little fresh for the Sunday game. But again, it's a T20 format. You don't want to take any team lightly. I would have liked Mohammad Shami to come and bowl because he has had very little cricket. And I really think that despite having bowled his overs, 4 overs in Melbourne, I do believe he should have come in and practiced because that's only good for him. But never mind, he's not there. India has got a fantastic victory. Netherlands might not be as formidable as, say, Pakistan and South Africa. But India can't relax against anybody, particularly in the shortest format of the game.
Saibai makes a very valid point that he would have liked to have seen someone like Mohammad Shami, and that becomes even more important when you consider the fact that India are not going to be practicing a day before the Netherlands game. So they had a practice session today. Majority of the team members were here, including Virat Kohli, who seems to be the man in form, but spent a lot of time in the nets batting today, looked very fluent as well. But they're not going to have a practice session just a day before the game. Of course, the captain is going to come, speak to the media. We'll bring you all those latest reactions. Just going on to that Hardik Pandya point, Sunny, as you said, maybe if he's got a bit of a niggle, it would make a case for him to be rested. What does the Indian team do then to get the balance right? Do you then get another all-rounder because you need the 6th bowling option, but the other all-rounder that you have at the moment is going to be Deepak Hooda, but then he's a spinner. So how do you manage that? Do you then go in with 3 spinners as your 6th bowling option, or do you look at, no, let's get Harshar Patel, he's handy enough with the bat, and go in and get the balance right that way?
No, I think I would like to see Deepak Hooda in the team simply because if Hardik Pandya is not there, then you have got Dinesh Karthik coming in at number 5. And that might be just a little bit of a concern because if early wickets fall down, then you might be just a little bit short of batting. So I do believe that you should bring in Deepak Hooda, let him bat at 5, and then that'll take care of the Hardik Pandya overs, because then Deepak Hooda doesn't have to bowl his full quota of overs. Akshar Patel can bowl his quota of overs, and we will still get 20 overs done.
The other man, Saibai, that I mentioned at the practice today was Virat Kohli. Spent a long time batting in the nets. Many might see that, listen, he's the man in form. Did he really need to go out and practice today? But I guess you'd be able to tell us best. I think batting can be addictive. When you're in good form, you want that ball striking your bat. And maybe that's what Virat is enjoying. He seemed to be enjoying at the practice today as well.
Absolutely. The rhythm is so important. See how many times we've seen a batsman who's been stroking the ball well, and he then gets stuck at the non-striker's end, doesn't get much of the strike, and suddenly when he gets the strike, the fluency is not there. So therefore, it's important for batsmen, particularly when they are scoring runs, to keep on playing, not to have a gap. And that's exactly what Kohli, with all his experience, is bringing to the fore as well. He wants to make sure that the rhythm is there, that cradle movement of the bat is there, the pickup, the backlift, the head position, everything is right there. And so when the match comes along, he'll be ready for a big innings again.
Sunny Gavaskar still with us. Sunny, by the last time around in that crucial game versus Pakistan, the Indian openers really didn't fire, but the middle order came to the rescue. But would it be fair to say that if India really are going to be strong contenders to be winning this tournament, the top order, or in fact the openers, would have to come good on more occasions?
Yes, obviously, a good platform is what everybody looks at. You give a good platform, good start, then it makes it that much easier for somebody coming down at 4 or 5, or even at number 3, to be able to start hitting the ball from the first ball. They don't have to give themselves time to settle in. They don't have to give themselves time to steady the ship, like India had to do against Pakistan when there were 4 wickets down for 31. So if you even get to a slightly slower start in the first 6 overs, get to maybe about 40, but lose just 1 wicket, that is a good platform. That's a much better platform than 31 for 4.
Have you been worried in the recent past, Sai bhai? I know that these two players, KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, outstanding players. No one can really question their class. But have you been worried about the consistency with which they're scoring runs in T20 format?
Look, the consistency is never going to be there as far as the T20 format is concerned, because the batsman has to take risks from the first ball. And in that, he can lose
Right.
his wicket. So the consistency is not always going to be there. But what is more important is that if one of them also sticks around, that helps quite a bit. The only concern really has been that Rohit
Yes.
Sharma of late hasn't quite scored with the same capability that we know him to do. And I think he gets going, then it makes life really easy for the batsman to follow.
All right. Now, remember, most teams have just played one particular game in this tournament, so the entire group is still open. Anyway, I had a question for you. Just looking at South Africa's game, I know the rules say that you have to have a minimum of 5 overs to ensure that it's a T20 game. But let's take a look at the scenario where the South African team found themselves in. They were 50 plus for no loss in just 3 overs. Now, if you were to take the Duckworth-Lewis system, even for what would have happened after 5 overs, they had gone past the required score after 5 overs. If a team ends up doing that, that means the required runs for the minimum 5 overs have been achieved much earlier. Should there be a scenario where you could still award them a win even though those 5 overs haven't been played?
No, the rules are very clear. A minimum of 5 overs have to be played. So I don't think that's something that should ever be trifled with. The rules are very simple. If 5 overs don't take place, irrespective of what the other team has scored in 4 overs or 4.5 overs or 4.5 overs, it does not matter. The match then is drawn and the points are shared. It's a simple thing. Don't complicate it.
The only argument, Sanjay, for those who may advocate that, okay, let's look at a result, for assuming that the Duckworth-Lewis score in 5 overs or the revised target is, let's say, 50 in 5 overs. If a team achieves that in 3 overs itself and then the game gets washed out, is there a cause then that we could look at? Is there merit in that?
No, 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 no. The rule is very clear, minimum 5 overs. Never mind if the opposition has gone past the required score at 5 overs. 5 overs, if it doesn't take place, that's it. The rules are very clear. The rules are made for a particular reason. And therefore, I don't think we should be looking at, oh, they got more than that, so they should be awarded the match. No.
Okay, it's as emphatic as one could get. As Sanibhai says, the rules are in place. They've been written for a reason. It's best that we follow that. The other thing, Sanibhai, and I know I'm going to be talking about the rules because that particular game came in for a lot of discussion, was the fact that should there be a scenario, for example, you go for a toss and of course you have to declare your 11 before the toss takes place. But let's say the toss takes place and then the game is changed or the game conditions are changed or the game has been reduced to a few overs without a single ball being bowled. Should the teams then be allowed to make changes to the playing 11 if a single ball still hasn't been bowled?
Well, then I think if you're looking to consider that, then you'll have to look at the toss being made again. If you allow that, then the toss has to be made again. You can't have a situation where the toss is made, the 11 has been declared, and then because the tosses generally are made half an hour before the first ball is bowled, and in case it starts to pelt down, say about 15 minutes before the game is to start, and then the match is then thereby reduced to maybe 8 overs, 10 overs, whatever it is. Then, if you want to change, then the toss has to be done again, because otherwise it's an advantage to a particular team
All right.
to know that, look, they are batting second, so they can accordingly pack their team with batsmen. No, then the only alternative I would suggest is maybe to have the toss again.
And that's actually a very fair point. If you are allowing, I mean, I understand the school of thought there that listen, if the toss has happened at the time, there were different situations or a 20-over game, but the rain happened after the toss and now it's been reduced to, let's say, 5 overs. Shouldn't the team be allowed to make those changes? But as Sunny Bhai points out, okay, do that. But then let's also have the toss again. And this is something maybe the lawmakers of the game can look at. Sunny Bhai, we're completely out of time, but thanks so much for joining us. Still a couple of days to go for that next game that India are going to be playing. And the word coming out of Sydney and what Sunny Bhai said earlier in the show, you got to be careful. You've played the tough game versus Pakistan. Sometimes after that, you could just relax a bit. That could be dangerous because in a T20 format, any team can upset any other team. Thanks so much for joining us. That's all that we could pack into this edition of our Battle of Champions. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time.